Hey, I'm Zendar, and welcome to... Hey, I'm Zendar, and welcome to the AuthentiX Podcast. You are joining me today for episode 2 of the show. Today, I'm going to be joined by Nix Ullrich. She is an editor for Nickelodeon. We're going to be diving into her journey within the entertainment industry, everything from moving to Los Angeles, how she found her way to Nickelodeon, as well as the fortunate events that led her to being the videographer for a tour of the Swedish metal rock band Sabaton. I love their freaking music. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and in case you haven't already done so, you can register for an opportunity to win a $100 AMC gift card. If there's no AMC near you, we'll figure something else out. All you have to do is enter your name and email in order to enter the contest. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking so you guys can get to the episode and learn a little something. I know I learned a lot of something. Then, I'm not very smart. I learn a lot of something every day. Like, did you know that when you close the fridge, the light doesn't stay on? All right, I'm going to shut up now. Let's get started.
It's just MMA, like MMA. UFC and all that stuff.
Were you in UFC, like MMA? Were you a fighter or were you recording?
I wanted to. I was doing editing for them. So like basically what Bellator did is like when they had their actual like live shows and everything, we take the recording, and then what I would do is I'd get the recording and I would just kind of cut it up, cut out any promotional stuff, any future show stuff, any commercial black stuff like that, and export it out for airing on like websites and stuff like that.
Interesting. And is that multicammed, and then you still have to like figure all that out, or is it just?
So it's the broadcast.
Oh,
that
it's the
I
actual
get.
broadcast itself.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
it switches cameras and stuff like that already, but I don't have to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever basically was broadcasted, I get that.
Oh, well, that makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah, definitely.
But you still gotta have I imagine you'd have to have a really keen eye to know, and the knowledge base to know like what is gonna stay and what's gonna go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and plus it was fun because I got to watch the fights for free, and then I got to like rewatch stuff. So like those big hits, they do the instant replays and stuff like that. But I just got to go back, like click, let me watch that again.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And, I got better view than any seat in the actual arena you would ever get. So
yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And is are you still into that? Are you still watching fights and all that?
Not as much now. So Bellator got bought out by another company, and basically, funny enough, same thing with Nickelodeon, kind of, sort of. What I was doing was now absorbed by the new company, and they had a team to do it. So basically, I just kind of stopped doing that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which does suck, but it was a lot of fun when I did it.
Yeah. Was the buyout the reason that you kind of stepped away from that? Is that when you moved to Nickelodeon, or?
No, I was working on Nickelodeon already. This was just because, they did like maybe 30, 40 fights a year. So it wasn't like I was editing this every day. It was, maybe once or twice a month kind of thing.
Gotcha. Full disclosure, I'm going to ask a ton of questions because I don't know most things. So, that's really cool. So then when you kicked off on Nickelodeon, was that, did you jump right into Nick News, or how did that?
It was a slow start. So I think I started, so basically what happened was I was working on the Bellator edits at a post-production house over in North Hollywood, and the company that it was originally working for got bought out by Showtime.
Okay.
So then it went into Paramount. Now it left that post-production house, and at this time I left the post-production house before this happened to go do the tours with the Sabaton and Winter Sun and all that.
I'm so excited to talk about that, by the way. Oh my God. I used to listen to Sabaton when I was growing up, and it was like the greatest thing. It's like so fun.
It's good workout music.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And like the stories, and you just feel, I used to, don't make fun of me. I used to like create scenarios in my head when I was a kid listening to that music of me like battling evil and doing all this silly stuff. I was a weird kid. Yeah. You were too. So sorry. Okay, so
no, you're
continue.
Good. So basically when that shift happened, the guy that was working with Brad, he was like, hey, this is the situation. This is what happened. We're going to be working out of like the Viacom building now downtown. He's like, can I bring you with me? Can you do these edits? And I was just like, yes, of course, no problem. I'm pretty sure this was like at the point where I was done doing the tours. So this was like maybe like a 2-year gap. And I started there, it's just kind of in an editing suite on my own in the dark. And I met some people there and basically was just like, hey, do you guys need editors? Like, what's the situation? And basically they told me like, it's all freelance. They just have a list of editors that they kind of go off of when they have projects. And they're like, if you want to get on the list, send us your information, send us your resume, your rate, all that stuff. So I did. And it took a while. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until COVID time, actually, a little after COVID, so maybe like end of 2020, beginning 2021 area, that they reached out to me. And at this point, once COVID hit, they sent laptops to all editors. And they're like, hey, this is the remote system. So I could still do the Bellator edit now, all remote.
What were you guys editing on?
We're just editing on Adobe.
Oh, on Adobe?
Yeah.
Shout out. I'm actually a part of the Adobe Odyssey program. It's super fun.
Yeah.
We get a chance to like play around with the tools and then provide feedback. And they do these like really cool sessions with the creative artists to like show off new tools and stuff. It's super fun.
Nice.
But good to hear.
Yeah, pretty much all the work I've been doing with like Paramount, Bellator, Nickelodeon, it's all been Adobe.
That's awesome. If you have any feature suggestions, send them my way. I'll send it over
I
to
will.
them.
Yeah, definitely I will. I've got a few. Stop crashing.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I feel like any editor watching would agree with me. Yeah.
No, yeah, big time. So then they sent you guys all the laptops so that way you guys go full remote. So you weren't a part of that transition. You came in after the fact.
So I was part of that transition.
You were part of that,
yeah.
okay.
So they sent me a laptop basically to just do those Bellator edits every now and then. Then they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we have this new YouTube short we're doing. It's called Blues, Clues, and Use Nursery Rhymes. They said it was 52 episodes over the course of like a year, I think we were going to do. And they just said, can you be the editor for this? And I was just like, yeah, of course. Blues Clues. I like Blues Clues.
That's awesome.
I grew up on that stuff. That's awesome.
So that's animated, right? So
yes.
You weren't, how did that work? Did you receive the different, like, were there different takes on each animation and you still had to choose
Pretty
which
much,
one to use? Or
I got like a full, like done animation. And then sometimes I would get like new clips and new shots. And then most of the time, the edits that I'm doing, I'm just taking the file that I have and just kind of making it work. Sometimes I would just be zooming in or changing the motion of it and all, putting in, the final mastered audio and everything and exporting that out.
Oh, so you were technically also doing, that wouldn't be sound design. Is that sound mixing?
No, because they mix the sound
mixed,
and then they just gave me the file.
Okay,
I just like attach everything.
That's
and
awesome.
Send it out. So I was doing that. Then next thing I know, they're like, hey, do you want to work on, I think the next one was like a Loud House clip holiday episode. So basically what they did is they did a little bit of new animations for Loud House, but then they just took old clips from old episodes and they're like, oh, remember what we did last Thanksgiving? And then it's like a clip to that or cut to that. Did that. And that just kind of started rolling the ball basically.
Yeah.
So then I was on another one of those for Christmas. I did a SpongeBob one for Christmas and started
must have
doing
been fun.
Yeah.
That must have been so much fun.
I really liked that. It was a lot of work because like I'm working with a lot of different people and I'm trying to like get certain things out because at that point I have like the raw stems and I have to organize everything to get it out to the mixer and then get everything back and then deliver. And the whole time I'm just like looking at the clock. I'm just like, crap, we're coming up on the due date. We gotta get this thing done.
How long does it usually take to get through an episode edit?
Those I think we're doing maybe like 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 weeks. So basically we were getting the animations in, we're getting the stem files in, we're getting the old clips from the archival system and just kind of putting it all together.
So I imagine you guys had to be well ahead of the schedule for like when episodes drop, or was it pretty tight to each schedule? Like you had maybe like a few days before.
Yeah, it was pretty tight. It was just for one episode though, because it's like
Okay,
this is
okay.
like just the Christmas or just the Thanksgiving
Okay.
episodes. Yeah, so
Okay,
it wasn't like we
special.
were doing like every week is a new episode or something like that. It was just we had just the one episode to get done.
What about for Blue's Clues? Was that like a
Blue's
similar?
Clues was a lot faster.
Mhm.
Usually the turnaround time for that was like 2 days.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so pretty much I get everything. I've got the day to do it, send it out sometimes because a lot of the people I was working with were on the East Coast. So depending on timing, sometimes I wouldn't get notes back until the following day. And then I just deliver it and then it gets posted up. So
Not bad. And is
Yeah.
that was that on the Nickelodeon channel? Because I saw there was a YouTube channel for it that you'd sent me.
yeah.
That was kind of cute. So that's not. I saw that there was an episode posted a month ago. Is that just repeats from old episodes, or is that still ongoing now?
I believe it's just repeats.
Repeats. Okay.
Yeah, or maybe it's just they didn't post them all up right away and so they're still posting them.
Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
because we pretty much finished that. That one got wrapped a while ago. And then next thing I know, it's just kind of like little things here and there. Like, hey, can you do this quick thing for Awesomeness TV? Hey, can you hop on this real fast? I started doing some like same thing with the Blue's Clues, but doing Dora the Explorer. Yes, there were like little 3-minute, like really short episodes we were doing with like musical numbers, and then some of them were like more like kind of nursery rhyme kind of things. And then the one I'm doing now is Backyardigans.
Can you tell me about that?
It's pretty much they're taking, this is more like common songs that are like kind of out now. And then they're doing kind of some like Backyardigan twist to it and kind of doing the animations for it and everything and all. So I believe like the first episode's already out and aired. So that's kind of why I'm talking about it, but
Okay.
maybe it's not. So sneak peek.
Hopefully, you won't get in trouble for that.
No, fine. But it was kind of cool. It's kind of cool because when I look at my resume now, it's like I get all these big shows under my name now, and it's like, and a lot of them is like stuff I watched when I was little. Like I never really watched Dora. I think I've had like friends that watched Dora. But like SpongeBob, Backyardigans, I've watched some of. Blue's Clues was like the biggest one. Like that's my childhood right there. So it's really cool to be able to say like, hey, I'm doing work on these shows. Granted, it's not the airing show that is out now, but it's like the YouTube shorts, the little off shows that they're doing.
Do you obviously that's something that you tend to reminisce on, but do you ever think about that? Because you don't have any kids, right?
No.
Do you ever think about that? Like when you're watching this, you're like, oh man, there's other kids now growing up who are watching these shows. Like, does that impact you in any way when you're watching it? Is there like a certain feeling you get from that? Or is it just you're just kind of like, nah, I'm just editing this thing.
Yeah,
Gotta
I
put it
think
out
it's more of like my own nostalgia
Mhm.
and the fact that like these shows are still going on, even
Mhm.
though now I'm almost 30
Yeah.
and these shows are going on still. And then sometimes I'll look at it and, I'll be like, wow, we're definitely like, this has definitely changed for more modern times now.
And that's what I was going to say is like, how different is Blue's Clues now from when you were a kid?
It's basically they just have like a big squad now. So yeah. So there's a few more characters, like there's some kids in there and all that. There's one kid that's in a wheelchair, and then there's another one that I believe is like missing half of his arm and stuff. And I'm not really sure like the backstory with them, but like the fact that they brought those in means like, hey, they're trying to be open to everybody and show like, show a disability and stuff like that, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, I
Because,
think that's-
back in the day, it was just Steve and Blue.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, and I think that's really good to expose kids to that at an early age because I'm going to be honest, when I was a kid and I saw somebody in a wheelchair, I didn't really understand. I was
Yeah.
like, why don't they just get up and walk? And I think having that kind of exposure, I was a really dumb kid, by the way.
well,
yeah.
you didn't know yet. You
Yeah,
had to
yeah,
you
yeah.
had to grow up and figure it out.
Yeah. And I where I grew up to, I was even less exposed to that because I was in like a small village in Eastern Europe, and like it was just whoever was around me was around me. And then when I moved to America, I was just exposed to all this diversity, and I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Not speaking English and like going through all that, it was intense.
Oh, I bet.
And so, you did Blue's Clues. You did a little bit of Dora. You didn't work on the new Dora show now that's coming out. Are you
No,
involved in
not
that one?
that one.
Okay. I was doing like a little bit of digging around. I had no idea. There's been like 3 voice actresses for Dora and like a bunch of them for Boots. And Boots sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
That I remember like when I was young and I was watching it, and now looking at the recent stuff that I saw, I was like, holy cow, is that the same? I had to look it up. I was like, is that the same voice actor?
Yeah, it's different, but it just sounds so similar.
My favorite is Danny Trejo though, as Boots. That was my favorite Boots. Yeah.
I didn't even know he voiced Boots.
Yeah, it was that live action one or whatever they did. It was,
that one?
Or, and truth be told, I haven't watched it. I've seen clips. But
same. I haven't watched it either.
Yeah. Shame on us.
Yeah, well, there's certain things I will watch and certain things I'm just like, I don't need to watch those.
That's fair. what kind of, to divert a little bit, what kind of films are you into? Like if you could, I guess we'll put it this way. If you could have it your way, what kind of projects would you like to work on as an editor? And are those the same projects you like to watch too? Or the same types of films?
Personally, as an editor, like dream goals is working on movies. Yes. Like more like big action movies, thrillers, stuff like that. Something that's like, got a lot of nice fast pace. That or like a really good TV show, like before it went to shit. Game of Thrones.
Yes.
House of Dragons, something like that. Yellowstone. I'm like really big into those shows. Yes.
Have you seen 18? What was that one? Oh, geez, 1884. It was the prequel to Yellowstone that they had. It was one season with Sam Elliott.
Yes, I have not seen it yet.
You got to see it.
I know I need to, but once I caught up and finished Yellowstone, I actually was onto other shows because I had like a list of shows I had to finish watching or start and watch all the way through.
It's so hard to keep up.
Yes, definitely. And then I know my boyfriend was like, hey, I really like this show Yellowstone. I saw this one video. Just like, well, we're gonna watch it. So then I had to rewatch Yellowstone, which, oh my gosh, how horrible for me. I have to rewatch it. Oh gosh, more Kevin Costner. What am I gonna do? Goodness gracious.
Right.
So that is on the list. And I think there's a 1900s one too, right?
Yeah. Is that out? No?
I'm not sure. I just know about that one. So those are on the list too.
Yeah, that one I haven't seen yet.
But yeah.
Yeah, that franchise, I mean, Taylor Sheridan's just brilliant. Hell or High Water. That was Yellowstone was originally from him too. And I don't know if you read into his story. It's so interesting. He was like in Hollywood for a while and then he left. And he was like on a hiatus. It was not on writing hiatus, but he was on hiatus from Hollywood for a bit and he just started writing. That was so fascinating.
Well, it's also because, if I remember correctly, his backstory was he wanted to do something like Yellowstone a lot sooner, but nobody went for it.
Yeah.
Everybody was just like, oh, it's, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be good. And then when he went on this hiatus, he also started writing all this stuff. Yeah. And then it just launched.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he owns the 4 6s too.
Yeah.
And so he's using his own stuff in the movie. He's using his own horses. I believe he was using his own cattle and everything too.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So yeah, he's brilliant because it's just hey, why am I going to spend lots of money getting all this stuff in when I'm just going to go to my backyard and go grab Betsy over there. Come on,
It's so awesome just to have access to something like that. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you seen Hell or High Water?
No, not yet.
Gotta check it out.
Okay.
If you're a fan of Taylor Sheridan's work, that's a really good one.
Okay.
But anyway,
I'll add it to the list.
Yeah. There's an endless amount of films that I can recommend for you, especially in that genre. That's one of my goals. I want to work on a Western at some point. I have a story idea. I won't say what it is. I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
But, I have a really cool story idea for what I want to do. But
you gotta hit up Kevin Costner. That's what you gotta do.
I know.
He's all Westerns now.
Really?
Yeah, he made his new one, Horizon. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that's like a 2-parter, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, that just came out, I think, this month. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to see it. It's like a 3-hour film, though, so I'm shoot, where do I find the time?
I've always loved Kevin Costner. He's one of those Hollywood crushes I've always had. If I could have the chance to sit down, I would literally buy him whiskey and just be Tell me about your life. Yeah. Like I would like sit there and just be like it wouldn't be anything like weird or sexual. It'd just be like, I want him to be Kevin?
It won't be weird or sexual.
Like, I feel like he's like a grandfather to me kind of. So I just want to sit there and be like, Grandpa, tell me how it used to be back in the old days.
Oh my gosh. That would be an experience.
Yeah.
I've got a crush like that. His name is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want to pick his brains. I want to hear like everything about his story, everything he's gone through. It's not the same, you know, when you're sitting there listening to the documentaries and stuff. Like I want to be able to interject and be like, oh, I want to hear more about this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so working back to Nickelodeon, so you worked on all these really awesome shows. At what point did you get involved with Nick News, or was that kind of like they're not like separate entities? Do you just hey, we have this project for you, and then they just assign you something?
Sort of. So basically I got reached out to, it was funny. I actually got the phone call like as I'm getting tattooed. So I saw it and I was just like, I knew it was somebody from Nickelodeon, and I was just like, I'm not going to answer this right now. Cause I'm just like, the last thing I wanted to do was like, hello, my name is Nix. This is a professional phone call. In the background I hear is zzz.
I'm getting a tattoo of Nickelodeon on my arm right now. You have some good news for me?
But pretty much that into that world started with, they do Nick News breaks or Nick News interstitials. The name kind of goes back and forth. And what that was is a very quick 1-minute clip. It got posted online, but also on TV as well, usually like on Saturdays and Sundays. Super, super fast. And it usually covers 3 topics of like what's happening now. And it just simply covers it. You know, we covered a lot of space, a lot of like quick politics, like, hey, this is happening. And it was directed obviously towards kids, just to kind of let them know like, this is going on in this week in the world.
I saw the one of the clips that you had sent me. It was very informative. Like I didn't. There was something about the cicadas. And I didn't even know that information. Like so, that's really
really
that's
cool. This summer too. That's happening.
This summer?
Yeah, it's mainly the East Coast that gets affected because West Coast doesn't really have like cicadas as crazy as the East Coast. It's real bad over there.
Really? Yeah, that's got to be wild living over there right now. It's just like
yes, they're loud. And then it's kind of funny, like little side story. When the last time they came up, I was over there in Maryland still. And I remember, you know, they come up and they're everywhere. You know, the trees are like moving because they're just sitting on the trees, like vibrating and making that loud noise. But after like a week or two, they all die. And it's just shells on the ground. And I remember like, you know, being like a kid and just picking them up and just throwing them at people. just
what a
scoops
jerk.
them up and just throw them and stuff. Like my brothers and I, we'd like throw them at each other and stuff. I'd go to like my cousin's house and all, would just throw them. You know, my parents are probably sitting there like, what the fuck is wrong with this girl?
Where are you from? The East Coast originally?
Yeah, originally from Maryland.
Okay. Maryland. When did you move out to LA?
September will be 9 years.
Wow, congrats.
So, yeah.
Next year's going to be a big one. It's a whole decade.
Yeah.
But you're doing so much cool stuff. Like, I mean, you traveled with one of the big 4 from the bands. Like, how fucking cool is that? And then now you're working for one of the biggest networks and, you know, in the game. So that's awesome. That's really cool.
It was a long road, but you know, it's a proud one.
I know. You know, and I think there's so many people who think like you're just going to show up in Hollywood and be working with the big leagues on day one, like Chris Hemsworth did. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He just got this funny clip where he's like, I've been roaming Hollywood for days until I finally got work. And it's like, days, huh? That's it. That's how long it took you.
Well, I mean, if you look like Chris Hemsworth, it's kind of easier.
It is. Yeah, he's a very handsome guy. That's awesome. So, okay, so now when you moved out to LA, did you move out to LA with the intentions of working on video editing or?
Yes. Okay. So I had taken some like video production classes in high school, and I went to college for 2 years on the East Coast and basically completely blew through their video production major that they had. Well, it wasn't a video production. They had a video communications major.
How does that, what does that entail?
For them, it was basically like 2 classes of like, hey, here's how you make videos, edit videos. You're gonna actually like have a little film camcorder thing, and like you got a film tape and everything. Like, this was back in the old days. And I took like 2 classes because that's really all they had, and then the rest was film theory. No offense at all, but I do not give 2 shits what the director was feeling when he decided to make the drapes in the background of that one shot blue. I don't care. I understand film theory, film study. You need to have a knowledge of it. But I was sitting there in class thinking, I don't want to be a critique. I don't want to be a theorist. I don't want to be a studier. I want to sit in a dark room in front of a bright computer screen with my eyes hurting, like, 5 layers of those blue glasses. Yeah. And I want to create it. I don't want to study it. I want to make it. So
I'm aligned with you on that. I think that there's a whole lot of time wasted learning about films from like 50 years ago. Like, film's not even done the same way today. And although I appreciate the history and the culture, and that is part of the reason why we are here today, I'd rather learn the hands-on stuff. Like, I'm a firm believer, like, you go to film school and do whatever you want, but I'm a firm believer that mentorship programs are probably the better way to go, because you get hands-on experience, you get direct coaching, you're on set, go run me and grab me that coffee. Trust me, it's important to the film. So, yeah. So then, did you ever imagine you were going to work at Nickelodeon when you came to LA? Or that was just kind of like, holy cow, this is where my life is going?
It was definitely a shock. It wasn't the intention. It was more of like, I came to LA and I said goodbye to my life on the East Coast. I went through a bad breakup. I bleached my hair. I was blonde. When I first met you and her,
I think I remember that.
Yeah, I had the blonde hair with the really dark brown roots, and like it was brassy as anything too, because I was like, I promise I'll get paid next week and I'll take care of it then. But I basically came out here like one of those stereotypical people is like, oh my God, I'm going to go to film school. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get a job in a movie studio, and I'm going to be an editor. I'm going to have a movie done. My name on the theaters. 3 years. It's not like that at all. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of connecting with people and everything. And I very quickly learned that, hey, this is not going to be just a walk in the park. And that's kind of the area where people hit or miss now, I feel like.
The networking or?
Yeah. Well, and like because when you're in LA, you hear about transplants and you hear about people coming out here chasing their dream. And then, 3 years later, they go back home because they can't do it. I think it's because at that point, that's when they realize, like, crap, it's not easy. I do have to figure out, like, I got to put my nose to the grindstone. I got to work for this. And if they can't make those connections, and if they can't find, like part-time jobs, or if they're like adamant about like, I'm not working a part-time job. I'm not going to be a waitress. I'm not going to work at a retail store. I'm just going to focus on this. That's kind of those people that don't make it, because I've had like, oh my God, I feel like I've had like 10 jobs out here, not even related to the film industry at all. But I just kept making those connections. And then once you get your foot in the door somewhere, like I got my foot into the door at Paramount and started getting it through Nickelodeon. Now there's like high up people within Nickelodeon that will be on an email chain, and they'll just message me and they're like, hey, Nix, I've heard so much about you. So great to meet you. Can't wait to see you in the Zoom call and actually meet you face to face. And I'm just like looking like, who is this? I was like, oh, this is the president of Nickelodeon Animation. I was just like, oh my gosh, and they know me. So it's like things like that. Now it's just like my world is so different now from when I first came here. And if I could go back in time and like meet my old self, I would just slap her across the face and be snap out of it faster.
I feel like so many of us, I don't know if it's the whole like naivety when we're young or what it is. We just feel like we can, you're coming out of high school, middle school, where you feel like you own the place, and then you're going into the real world. And no matter how many adults tell you.
And you don't know anything at all.
Right.
You think you do.
Nothing. Yeah.
It's like the scene in, it's like if you watch an old Disney movie and like the Little Mermaid, Ariel, she's like, I'm 14, Dad. I know what to do. And you're just like, shut up. You do not.
No, you don't.
Listen to your father, Missy.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Honestly, it's yeah, for all you young filmmakers coming, I just started sipping on this too. For all the young filmmakers coming out, don't be flexible. Seriously, like there's this. Everybody says how competitive it is. It really is true. There's a lot of really incredible people out here who are doing a lot of really amazing stuff. But don't also get discouraged on that because they're competing with you too. So like, bring the goods, put in the work, put in the time, do what you got to do, and just I don't know, nose to the what's that grind? Something?
Nose to the grindstone.
Nose to the grindstone. Sorry, foreigner. Yeah, definitely. You got to put in the time and you got to make it happen, and don't expect it to happen overnight because it just doesn't. It really does. Unless you have a connection to some higher up individual and you're just naturally born talent. Yeah, like expect it to be work because you get what you put in. It really is. There's a lot of my friends who came out to Los Angeles to act. They like would go to 10 auditions and they're like, this isn't for me. It's like, dude, do you have any idea how many auditions you're going to go to and they're going to tell you no?
Yeah. There's still there's A-list celebrities that will do auditions and they'll get turned down.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you need to just, what is it? You just need to go towards the millions to get the one.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's no different for any other world. I mean, especially for behind the scenes stuff, there's one director. Usually there's one core editor and then you've got the other editors. Like it's so competitive to get to that top. Mm-hmm. You can do it though. You can do it. People do it all the time. They come from all over the place and they make it happen. It's just, it really does take work. It really does. So to that, cheers to slapping our younger selves in the face.
Cheers. Yes.
So what,
I'll try that one.
Yeah. We're drinking Japanese whiskey. It's so good.
A different one now.
I'm not
Can I see the
sponsoring the
bottle?
drink by chance.
What is this one? Oh, I'm trying to read the back. What is this one made with?
What
And
does that say?
it just has the general warning, don't drink it if you're pregnant.
I might be. I always have to take a test. Kisoyama. You know, I don't want to tell the story again because I told it in the first episode with Delan, but it was just really crazy how I came across this bottle. And I'm really grateful for it. It's delicious. It's really good. I had 2 bottles. I'm down to 1 now. And it's been a month, so I'm not an alcoholic, I swear. Drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Drink and then go drive. Come on.
Actually, this one's really good. This one's better than the Centauri.
It is, yeah. I like it. Centauri's more like the mainstream one. I think right now Jim Beam owns the distribution in the United States.
Really?
It's. I don't think it's produced by them, but they own the distribution here, and that's if you're going to go to a restaurant and you want Japanese whiskey, that's probably the most common one they'll have. Whereas Kisoyama's a little, I don't want to say rare, but it's less common for sure. Whew. It is hot in here. All right. So I have this cool little note with questions.
That you're getting watermarks on too.
I am.
Is it starting to bleeding now or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you still read it?
No.
Oh no.
All right, I'm gonna.
Is that the water or is that the whiskey?
I think it's both. We'll cut this part out, I promise. And if it's still in there, you're welcome. So as far as Nick news, and we're kind of we're briefly talking about that. So you were saying that there are all these 1 minute segments that are they at the beginning of a show? Are they commercialized interruptions during shows, or how was that formulated?
I'm not sure how they were actually aired and everything, but I'm pretty sure it was just during commercials or something like that. Or maybe, it was at the head of an episode or the end of an episode, not necessarily a Nick News episode or just anything kind of airing on Nickelodeon. Did that for all of their season 2. Mm-hmm. And then season 3, they did a whole new image for Nick News. And we had our transitions were paper crumbles and confetti paper. And then now we went into the 21st century kind of thing, more modern, more graphics heavy. And they called me up. They're like, hey, do you want to come in? They're like, right now we need you to be an AE, which is an assistant editor. just to kind of help organize everything. Because basically, the season 2 Nick News episodes were done completely off of drives, and they had somebody running the drives around to everybody else. Just because, everybody's still working from home. But now they're like, we're all going to come into one office space. We're all going to work together. So they're like, can you hop on as an AE for just a little bit and just kind of help organize everything, get everything set up? And I was just like, oh my God, yes. Because I love organizing things. I love taking
only digitally, or is your room, if one thing moves, you're like,
we're not going to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about the
digitally.
room?
Yeah, just digitally. Files, all that. Files, folders within folders, subfolders, subfolders. Yes, everything is organized. Everything has a place, and I know exactly where everything is. And if somebody touches it, I'm just like, don't do that. My room and my apartment is a mess. I mean, I have a dog now, so there's dog toys everywhere.
It's a balance. Okay. We'll call it the yin and yang of of organization.
People can come and look at my drives. They just don't need to look at my house.
Yeah. You you're going to blindfold them until they get in front of that computer screen. Yeah. And then put what are those things that horses wear?
Oh yeah, the little blinders. Just look at the computer and that's it. No, so I was excited for that. And then they still wanted me to edit the interstitials. But now the interstitials were so much better. The old ones were fun, but the new ones, 100 times better. Because now we're taking, we took basically influencers that were working directly with Nickelodeon, and we were putting them in front of a green screen. So now we actually had somebody, which is I think the one I sent you with the cicadas, we had somebody standing there talking to the camera, which is nice because now we can move them around, we can give them props, we can make them do hand gestures, and everything is going to look better than just text, voiceover, graphics. The graphics got better too, and all that stuff.
It looked really cool, and I think one of the things I really like, it was super informative, and it wasn't the news today like Fox, CNN, where it's like, here's my opinion on the matter. It was just, here's the thing, here are the facts, this is how it works, and you get all the educational value from it. I think that's how all news should be, realistically.
Mm-hmm. It was very quick because we have to think about it too. Our audience is 6 to 12 area. So they're used to Instagram Reels, TikToks, they need something really quick, short, but also attention grabbing. So that's why, having potentially an influencer that they might know and follow, doing some stuff, not just standing there all and now cicadas are coming out of the ground. It's just did you know cicadas? They're popping out of the ground and they're going to fly around and stuff.
And then you can throw them at people.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and that was a lot of fun too, because there was one girl that we really liked having on. Her name was Kayla. And we were just giving her props and telling her to do so much weird stuff. And there was one that we were doing that was just this is the hottest summer on record. And every time we cut to something else or we move her, she's putting on a hat, and then she puts on another hat, and then she's putting on another hat, and she's putting on another hat. And the whole time, so I was the editor for it. And then there's 2 guys, Tom and Frank, and they were kind of filming it. Mm-hmm. And the script was coming from somebody over on the East Coast that it was approved by, the higher ups and everything. The script comes to us. Then we kind of get to do whatever we want with the inflections, the how crazy they are, props, stuff like that. So we always did a dry read, just kind of reading it like normal, no props or anything like that. And then we had fun with it. And we always used the takes that had the props and the fun with it. And we were kind of nervous for that one because we're just she's literally just putting hats on hats on hats. And we're yeah, somebody over in the network's going to be why are you doing that? And we're just going to be we don't have an answer for you. They're sun hats. So it's sunny, it's hot.
I have an answer. Do you know your audience?
Yeah, pretty much.
Come on. It's for kids.
They were okay with it, and they got sent through. And then we did another one. She said, oh, you can fry an egg on the sidewalk. And we gave her a frying pan, and she flips. And I added an egg in that flips and everything.
You did that in post?
Yeah.
The egg? Oh my God, that's so much fun. So how much do you do? Do you do any other visuals in post too? Or is it just...
Yeah. So most of the time we're taking just the background stuff. We're taking it from just Getty. Most of the time it's like stagnant photos. Sometimes it's videos, stuff like that. All the graphics, the visuals, the text that you see, that's all me. And because we did this whole like revamp thing, I was able to do a lot more with it.
That's so much fun.
Yeah. So like there's like, we were talking about pandas like in China and stuff like that for one little bit of it. And I literally found like these cute little animated pandas on Getty. And so by the end of it, there's like 8 of them just sitting there, like doing random stuff on the screen. And I was just like, oh, they're going to tell me to get rid of this. And they're just like, yeah, it looks good. I'm just like, yes,
That's awesome.
pandas.
You can retire now.
Pretty much. So there was like cool stuff like that. There was a lot of planets and space stuff. So I got to add like cool things into that.
When you say planets and space stuff, is it, does it go deep? Because these are like super short clips. So was it like, here's a thing about Venus, here's a thing about black holes? Like,
it was more like, you know, the planetary parade when that happened, the solar eclipse, like, hey, there's solar flares happening. So it wasn't more like, hey, we know of a black hole that's been there for like 15 years. It's more like what's happening now in the news. Or it's just like, hey, this is going to happen. Like there's a comet going to be flying by, stuff like that. Go look at it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So with Nick News not being a thing anymore, is that gone now? Is that canceled?
Unfortunately, yeah, that got canceled too.
No.
Yeah. So that actually stopped. So that was just like its own separate thing. It was Nick News, but it was like its own separate entity, sort of.
So are there any plans for maybe bringing that back under different circumstances? Or because I think that's so cool. That was probably my favorite thing that I watched out of all the stuff that you sent me.
So when we weren't really told anything. It was right after Super Bowl, literally the day before Valentine's Day. We were all in this office group meeting together, and our boss basically came in and said, hey, the show's canceled. A lot of people, this is like when the whole Paramount layoff happened. So Paramount announced like they're laying off people. They didn't really explain why. What they didn't tell you was shows were also canceled too. So more people were laid off, more people lost their jobs because, you know, of all these shows.
When did that happen?
This happened back in February of this year.
This year? Wow.
Yeah. And our show was canceled too. And our show was broken up into like 2 sections. So we had East Coast and West Coast. East Coast people were more of like the producers kind of pitching the beginning of the stories, like pre-production and then end production. And then we were more production, post-production. So they were laid off that week. They're like, hey, sorry, but you got to be out by Friday. We were told you can finish 402, which is literally we were in the works for it. We were almost done. So luckily we were able to do that. So it made everybody, you know, nobody was at ease, but at least we were like, hey, we have some time. Like we know we have a few weeks to finish everything. Right then and there, though, the Nick News breaks got canceled.
I almost feel like that's kind of worse because you're like, now I know what's coming.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it gave us more time to like
kind
of find new work and like everybody work on their resumes and stuff like that. And like, you know, all hold each other for one last hurrah.
That's fair. I'd be anxious. I'd be so like, fuck, what is the point? I'm out of here soon.
I think the first day, no work really got done because we were all just kind of like shell shocked.
Yeah.
Because we're just like, what do you mean? We literally had just won an Emmy too. We were nominated for 2 Emmys and we won one for editing with multi-camera. So like we were an Emmy winning show. We all were just like making jokes too at the end of the year. They were just like, hey, we've got job security now. Like we're Emmy winning, like we're golden. Like we just renewed, we're renewing for season 4. And then this happened. And basically they didn't really have an answer to tell us like why. It was just, hey, unfortunately our show was affected. They said like it wasn't budgeting issues. It wasn't like, employee issues or anything like that. And then they kept saying there's a potential for it to go Nick News to continue, but go towards the Nick Digital side and just basically not really airing online or not airing on TV, but kind of going more online, YouTube, stuff like that.
Would there be any thought to just making Nick News and a social media thing just in general? Because like there's so much toxic stuff on TikTok. I feel like something like Nick News would be a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? Like, oh, here's a quick little 1-minute video, but you actually get to learn something. You get to walk away with something, you know. I mean, obviously, hopefully you don't have your 6-year-old on TikTok, but, you know, even like,
Yeah.
you know.
So last I heard, it is still alive and it's going, and it is going to become Nick Digital. It's just going to be revamped differently. That's kind of like the last I heard about it, but pretty much everybody who was working on Nick News just had to go find other work. Yeah. So it was kind of rough. I was on, you know, luckily I had like savings built up and everything, but I was already applying to jobs like crazy. I was reaching out to all my connections. I was reaching out to my main connection through Nickelodeon, and I was just like, hey, do you have anything? And the answer, unfortunately, was we're Paramount, Nickelodeon. All of it was kind of going through this whole like chaotic phase right now, and they're trying to figure everything out. Because at the same time, Paramount is going through a contract to try to get bought out.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this was happening. Nobody really knew anything. Nothing was really like settled. And my connection was just kind of like, hey, you got to just hold tight. He's like, if I have something for you, I'll let you know. But right now, I really don't have anything. So
That's terrifying.
Yes, very. Luckily, like I had built up a savings and all from all those random jobs I had back in the past. But instantly I'm like, okay, I need to figure out unemployment. I need to figure out like an exit plan, a game plan and stuff like that. And I basically sat down and cried my eyes out because I was like, I don't want to leave California, but I basically had a plan. Like if shit hits the fan, I got to pack up, I got to leave, and this is what I'm going to do.
How long did you have?
I had about 2 years, year and a half. So I didn't want, I kind of knew like I'm going to find something before then. But like if this is the end, like I knew I could last about that long. And luckily I didn't have to do that. It was.
Is that plan still in your back pocket?
It's kind of always there, but now it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
getting pushed down the road a little bit more, which is good.
That's really good.
Yeah. So I think it was May, like late May.
Okay.
I got hit up for starting some backyardigans work, which I mentioned earlier. And now I'm doing, it was a 3-month contract. They're like, hey, we want to hire you for 3 months it's kind of like Nick Digital, Nick International kind of merging together. And what they're doing is they're taking old shows, old clips from all the past shows and all with Nickelodeon, Big Nick and Nick Jr. And what they're doing is making like long compilations with it and short ones too, but with all the languages you can think about, like Arabic, Russian, Dutch, German, Japanese,
Serbian.
Korean. No, I don't think they have that one.
No.
But basically, what the idea is like they're doing shorts for TikTok. They're doing, some hour-long comps. They're doing 3-4 hour-long ones just to blast like all over the Nick Digital world in all these different languages. And there's some shows like I know one is Paw Patrol is very, very big in like the Asian countries. And so they're actually going to start doing a lot of edits for those and, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, all that. And they're just going to start blasting it out there too, just to kind of get a lot of views and feedback and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I was starting with that for 3 months, just kind of doing their archival work. So I was just going into the olden days of the original SpongeBob, the original Dora, in like 720, and basically getting those files, getting all those languages, putting them all together into a track, making it all super organized. Yes. Getting it.
Like I get to take advantage of my skills.
Yes. Everything is labeled. Everything is color coded.
Oh,
Everything is
you.
just, it was just so much fun. And basically what I was doing is I was prepping it for the editors. So when the editors come in and like, let's say they need like Dora's episodes, 103, 402 and 207, they can go in, get the clips they need from that, get all the languages and then put them into a timeline themselves. And everything just lines up. Everything's the same color, perfect, organized, nice. Get it ready and get it out. So they had.
Can I ask an interjecting question? So with the translation to the different languages, how is that being dubbed over? Like, do you guys have like foreign speaking actors, or is it going to be using AI to translate?
I believe it's just they have somebody translating it all and doing it themselves. That's kind of like off somewhere else. So basically, when these episodes get delivered, they get, a textless master gets delivered, a texted master gets delivered, and like the texted submission master, which is like what you see on TV, and they all get delivered with like an English, and then like the audio stems, and then what happens is somewhere else, all these languages eventually come in, and then they get submitted. So then they're all in. It's called VMS. They're all in this one section of VMS. They're all there, neat organized. So I'm not really sure like when that happens, but basically like the older shows and stuff like that, like the older SpongeBob's, Dora's, all those have all these languages now. The newer ones, like we're still kind of waiting on some of them to come in. And yeah, we just put them all together. And then, once all the edits are done, then it gets sent to another team and they deliver. So then they'll do like, most of these episodes and most of these cuts have like 12 different languages on them. Some can have like anywhere from 8 to like 14, 15 different languages. So then this other team, the international side, they will do every single export. So they'll export one edit like, 15 plus however many times for each language, and then they'll post them all up wherever they need to go.
Is there, I don't know if you would know this, is there cultural references in the redubbing to the different languages, or do they stick very strictly to the script and just one-to-one it?
I'm pretty sure they stick very to the script. I don't know because I don't know any other languages. So when I listen to them, I just hear the language. And I'm just like, all right, I'm sure like that's exactly what they said.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I know like, in some languages, like certain things kind of like, like we'll say like one thing, but then in a different language, it's kind of like, it's the same thing, but it's kind of like,
you'd have to,
it's different. So I think it's like, it all depends on like what language it is and how it's translated and stuff like that. But
that makes sense.
Yeah. But exciting news is they actually re-upped me for another 3 months.
Oh, nice.
And now I'm actually doing the edits. So I'm doing like the 2-3 hour long edits that take forever to export. So that's kind of fun. So I started as just doing the back end archival stuff, prep stuff, and now I'm doing like the actual edits. So now I'm just like, oh yay, my work is going to be back on the TV, that's back awesome. On the YouTube, all that stuff. So
that must be fun too, because I know you said you watched some of these shows growing up. It must be fun sitting there and like just having the opportunity to rewatch these old episodes and like go through that again.
Yeah.
That's
it's fun because there was one I did for SpongeBob, and it's like it takes from all the old ones and the new ones all together, and it's all combined together. So like you'll be seeing something from like the very first episode of SpongeBob and then like the newest one like back to back. And it's kind of cool when you watch it because you're just like, wow, the characters change. Like you don't really notice it when you watch it in chronological order, but when it's all jumbled up, it's just like, oh, there's like SpongeBob changes. He's brighter now, or like his the sponge holes are different colors, stuff like that.
Actually, speaking of sponge holes, I wonder if that's consistent. Like from even like I say take, it's not a take. It's like from each block of the animation to the next. Like is it like when they're drawing each one, do they like, oh yeah, no, he's got a hole here, or they just put random holes on SpongeBob? Huh.
I'm sure that it's pretty consistent. It looks like it is when you when you watch it and see the videos and pictures and stuff.
Full disclosure, I've seen episodes of SpongeBob, never really dedicated myself to it. I get hated on a lot for it. You can hate me if you'd like.
I mean, I watched it. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like when I was little, it wasn't the biggest show I watched. I feel like it was a lot more of like Blue's Clues, like Teletubbies, stuff like that. Maybe watch SpongeBob here and there, and then eventually like went into, The Simpsons and things like that. And I remember like when I was little, like my dad was so cool because Mom, you probably know this by now, but Dad was cool. My mom would go to work. My dad would just be like, guys, do you want to watch The Simpsons? Because Mom wouldn't let us watch it, but Dad was just like, let's watch it.
Was the so I did watch Simpsons when I was younger. Maybe it's because I didn't. Well, again, not speaking English and everything. Is Simpsons more adult, or has it become more adult?
I think it's a stepping stone.
Okay.
Because I feel like Family Guy is more adult than The Simpsons,
definitely.
but like SpongeBob is definitely more child than The Simpsons. So I feel like it's kind of like that stepping stone because there's adult references that you don't really catch on till later.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's still very kind of family friendly.
Okay.
It might not be anymore. I really don't watch The Simpsons anymore. So
Yeah,
it
me
might
neither.
just be real bad or it might be more for the children now, but
Yeah.
I just remember like, it was a stepping stone because, you see Homer drink and he gets drunk and he strangles Bart, but at the same time it's like, oh, this is fun. They're playing a game. And then you grow up and you're just like, oh, what?
right. You're like, wait a minute, this might be child abuse.
Yeah, but then you watch Family Guy and, like there's an episode where like they're all drunk and driving a car. So, it's like that's definitely more for like the adult people who know not to do that than the kids.
Yeah, big time. I think even as far as like the labels too, I think Family Guy's NC-17. I don't know what Simpsons is.
I don't know either.
But yeah.
One of the nice things about this is you're getting a more broad audience now because you're getting the younger generation that's watching the new episodes plus the older generation parents that have watched the older episodes.
And then even them watching it together, like parents sitting down with their kids and being able to watch it. Well, yeah.
Yeah, and there's one edit that we did where, it's like one of the classic clips of SpongeBob where SpongeBob and Squidward are delivering a pizza. And SpongeBob was like, oh, look, we're saved. And it shows like this big like boulder. And Squidward's just like, it's just a stupid boulder. And SpongeBob's like, it's not just a boulder, it's a rock. And like, they drive it and everything. And I remember like watching that when I was little and like now every now and then I'll be like scrolling through Instagram and there'll be reels or memes and it's just like, it'll be like SpongeBob saying, it's a rock. And it'll be like a map of a rock and all.
I was expecting a face of Dwayne Johnson.
There's those two I've seen before, yeah. So like now it's like the old classics have become like memes now too. So it's just like it's kind of like getting all the generations in together. So it's kind of fun and cool that way.
I love the internet. Makes so much cool stuff. That's really neat though.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch Avatar? That's a Nickelodeon property, right?
Yes. A little bit. I didn't get too crazy into it. I did not watch the live action movie, but I did hear bad things about it.
The M. Night Shyamalan one or the Netflix ones that were just made?
Oh, they made Netflix ones?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then I haven't seen any of them.
Okay.
But I've heard bad reviews about the M. Night Shyamalan one.
Yeah. That was I do like some of M. Night Shyamalan's films. Sixth Sense, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some other ones that were pretty good. I love the concept of old. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, that was a miss. That was a total miss.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a good chunk of it is like Hollywood gets their hands on these like IPs and then they don't stay loyal to the source material. And like that's your biggest audience. Like it happens. It even happens today. There's so much of that. Now it's getting better. It's getting way better.
I was gonna say there's a big franchise that we could potentially talk about that's going downhill fast because of that.
Halo.
Crap.
It just got canceled.
Oh well, Halo. I was thinking Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I have not seen the new thing that came out, the new show. Yeah, I have not seen that, but I've just heard so much crap about it.
I watched the first 4 episodes. It's not good.
Yeah.
Just even from the perspective of a writer. Like I don't get into like the political stuff, right? I watch something and I just based on the writing, right? Like there's one moment where the character is like, I'm going to let them take me away because I'm a bad person. And then when they try to take her away, she's struggling against them and like fighting them off. And it's like, hold on a minute. Last
no,
episode,
you can take
she
me,
said,
but when I want to go. I don't want to go right now.
yeah. And I'm just like, this is extremely inconsistent and really bizarre. I stopped watching it. There was like some big announcement. They were like, this is going to be the best Star Wars fight scene since, or it was going to be on par or better than the fight from, with Darth Maul. What was that one? That was the Star Wars episode 1. I love the choreography, right? It's the guy, the guy who did Matrix and all that. The choreography was fantastic, but even the power scaling of the characters made no sense. Like there was this character that took out like a bunch of Jedi masters, And then here comes a little Padawan, and she's like, I'm so fucking good at this. You know, it's like, and they're fighting almost on par with each other. And I'm like, this is, if you would have established this Padawan as a prodigy and you would have done a little bit more in the writing to like really show like, you know, she should already be a Jedi master, but you got to go through the process, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been a little more believable. I just feel like the writing is so, I bet you AI wrote that script. Just kidding. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of reasons I know why it happens too, because there's times when it's like the studio just doesn't give them enough time to get through everything. They're just like, we have the property, we have a release date, we need to stick to it, and this is the schedule you have. And they just don't give them enough time to really flesh out the story. And then there's other times when they just don't care.
Yeah. Or they put somebody on it that has come out and announced, like, I really don't care about this franchise. And it's just like, well, then why are you working on it?
Yeah. The first season of Halo, the creative artists were like, we've never played the game. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
We've never played the game. We didn't do the research. We don't know why he's called Master Chief.
Yeah.
I thought it was Master Chef. I thought he was a cook. What? Why does he have a gun?
That's
what?
the introduction.
What's
It's
going on?
just him with the chef's cap on.
Yeah.
It's not Master Chef. I'm confused. That's so funny. No, yeah.
When I did my research online, everybody said he was a chef and he was like cooking food. Like what?
Like, don't do your research on 4chan and 9gag.
I actually just recently played all those games again.
The
'Cause
Halo
you can
franchise?
you can do them co-op.
Yes.
So I was playing them with my boyfriend, and then we had, I think the first two, you can just do split screen. But then after that, you can bring like a third person in, like online. So we did that. We all played together, but we played it like the hardest difficulty.
Like legendary mode?
Yes. And then we were doing firefight with like a bunch of skulls on and stuff. Like we did it, like we set it up to like it was random skulls all the time. And I remember playing them before, like when I was really young, and I was just like, these are great. And then you play it on legendary and you're just like, holy fucking shit, this is hard.
You guys are brave. I've tried playing the first Halo on legendary,
It took us a while.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
How far are you guys done with?
Yeah, we went through all of them. We did that. We did like the Call of Duty games. We did them on like the hardest difficulty.
All of them, or just like Black Ops, Modern Warfare?
Pretty much all the ones you can do split screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were like, made sure it was like split screen because
so you guys, so the recent Halos don't have split screen. So did you guys go up to what, like Halo 4 or something?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
And then now we're on Gears of War actually.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
So it's kind of cool to like go through all of these old things too. And then, yeah, like I'm like playing these Halo games and stuff like that. And then I knew about the TV show and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, they didn't do a good job at this.
That was another one of those shows. I got 4 episodes in and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't 4 episodes. It was whatever episode they introduced that the Covenant had a human who was like, not a pet, but like, it just didn't make any sense. They absolutely despise humans. Their whole goal is to like exterminate humanity.
Except for Ted back there. Ted's cool.
Yeah, right. Like this one person. And that was like never an element in the original. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate because it happens a lot. I know just coming out of San Diego Comic-Con, there was discussions that they were like, there's going to be I don't remember what studio it was, but they're doing a Naruto live action. I grew up watching anime and I'm like, please don't touch it. We've seen what you've done with Dragon Ball. Please do not touch any more anime.
Yeah.
God. But and then Netflix did a One Piece anime. I loved it. Mm-hmm. Didn't really watch that. Like I went back and watched the anime. It's like 1,000 episodes. I don't have time to catch up. It's so long. But when I watched the Netflix version of One Piece, I was like, holy cow, this is really like the characters look like they're supposed to look. The performances are accurate. Even the original mangaka came out and was like, this is these are the correct ethnicities for the characters. Like even they were involved in the creative process for making it. So it's like, that's how you do it.
Yeah. That's how you know, like the people working on it were actually fans of it, which is kind of like what we need nowadays. Cause you hear it all the time that you just, everything's a remake, nobody has an original idea. Everything's gone to crap. And the issue is it seems like a lot of these networks and companies are putting people on these jobs where it's just like, oh, it's going to look good for you here. Or, we don't want clashing like ideas or something like that, and then you kind of start to lose the authenticity of the franchise.
I agree.
And it's like, I know, what was it, Henry Cavill with The Witcher? Like he got kicked off of that because they said he was hard to work with, but he was basically giving suggestions. They're like, hey,
he's a
instead
nerd.
of doing this, do you want to do like what the actual book says instead? Like it says this here, let's do that. And they're just like, no, we don't want to. We want to do this. And it's just like, and then they try to give him like a bad rap for it. And I'm just like, dude, he's like the mega nerd.
Yeah.
It's like he knows.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's so into this stuff. Like even with what happened to him with this Justice League, or not Justice League, but just the DC franchise in general, with him playing Superman. I know I'm gonna get some heat for this, but he's my favorite Superman. I love Chris Reeves, but like Henry, like he has the build. He's got the Clark Kent down. He's got Superman down. He's got it all down. I think he just needed some better scripts and an aligned team. I do wish that Zack Snyder would have just gotten his DC universe, right? Like you could have just let him have it, and then if you wanted to do a full reset, whatever, just do it. I am excited to see what James Gunn does with the DC universe, though. That's going to be super fun. But yeah. If as far as Avatar, if you ever did have an idea of, or if you ever did have the urge to get into it, I don't know if your boyfriend might have watched the franchise in the past. You guys might, but the Netflix one I did like.
Okay.
I didn't love it. I don't know how much time they had to prep it, and I know a lot of the actors are relatively fresh. Mm-hmm. There was definitely some scenes where I feel like the emotional connection was lost because it felt like they were trying to act instead of just acting.
Oh, okay.
But I think that might be due to inexperience. It might be due to time. Maybe they just didn't have enough time to like prep or whatever. I'm not sure. But production design, like the visual effects, the production design, they stayed super loyal to the original content. Like
nice.
It's not one-to-one adapted, but it's pretty damn close. And at least when I watched it, I haven't done a lot of the background research on this, so don't. If I'm wrong, don't crucify me.
There's so much hate in the comments right now.
Oh, I know. There's just like, I enjoyed it a lot. Like it was definitely not the worst adaptation of something I've ever seen. But everything's got its problems. But I enjoyed it. I hope you think they're gonna ever do a live action SpongeBob. Not a live action, like the Super Mario Brothers movie, right?
Yeah.
That they made, like something like that.
I was gonna say because they kind of did like live action a little bit.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, there's like an episode or two where they had like the actual characters play, like they're like the actual actors, like voice actors, play the characters.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that happened. I think it's happened a couple of times, or like there'll be like little cameos or stuff like that. It's really weird because these are all grown adults.
Are they like dressed as the characters, or is it?
I think they were kind of dressed as characters, yes. So
it's just like the actor walking around as a sponge.
Well, not like that much. Like he's wearing like the SpongeBob costume and stuff and all, but it's kind of like weird because like you see these grown ass people talking like these characters, and you're just like, no, this is weird. It's like, go back to being animated, please.
Wow, that's cool. Is it so? You're on an extended contract, mm-hmm. right? Another 3 months. Are you? Well, I mean, obviously, you're hoping that continues, but are you expecting there to be like if you were going to get involved more in that world, what direction would you want to go?
I would want to continue with like the editing. Mm-hmm. Like my main thing is I like having the creative freedom. So it's definitely different now from like working on Nick News and doing edits there to working on these, which is like I'm just grabbing stuff that's already been done and kind of putting it together. Granted, I do get to like kind of pick and choose which ones I want, which ones I don't want. But basically future-wise, like I got to figure out how to like break through this like weird glass ceiling, but basically just sticking with Paramount, I want to break into different networks and kind of get myself into like the bigger TV shows, the movies, stuff like that. Honestly, best case scenario is like working with a director, producer, stuff like that, and working on a movie where I'm not just a button pusher. I'm just like, hey, let's do something like this. Let's do something like that. Because when I was in film school, that's pretty much all we were doing. We're just doing short films. And that was so much fun because, I get really close with the director, and after a while they start to listen to me, and they're just like, oh, hey, actually, like Nix has some good ideas. Let's do some of those. And just being able to get like all of this footage and being able to pick and choose like what I do want and putting it all together, and then not needing to go through like this massive hierarchy of people. Because unfortunately with Nick News, that's kind of what it was. You would work on an edit and then give it to the lead editor. The lead editor would give notes. Then the producer would give notes. And then the head of production would give notes. And then it goes to network, and like network people are giving notes. And then it goes to legal, and legal is giving notes. So by the time you get it back, it's like, holy crap, it's changed so much from when you originally had it. It's still like your original work, but a lot of it had to change and stuff like that. So it's kind of going to be the same with like TV shows and stuff like that. And like still with movies, there's more legal, but like at least with like the director and stuff like that, the director kind of can just be like, hey, fuck you, we're doing this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
as long as the producer allows it, because man, there's some directors out there that don't even get what they want. It's unfortunate. Interesting. So you would want to gear more towards like the like live action TV shows and feature films and stuff like that.
Yeah. Basically, when I was first starting off and doing kind of every genre of editing, the best were kind of like the action thrillers, kind of fast paced stuff like that. You know, when it comes to like news stuff and all, it's kind of more editing to hide yourself. Like you're trying to like hide the fact that you're there editing something. With like actions and thrillers, it's like, hey, you want to have rapid, fast cuts, all that stuff and all, because if you do it right, it's just you're creating more movement within the movement. So
I feel like that reflects in your demo reel for sure.
Oh yeah,
it was like very.
That is so old too.
Opening.
You can tell it's so old. There's nothing in Nickelodeon on it.
Yeah.
I've kind of had. I've wanted to redo that, but then at the same time, I was kind of like worried because I was just like, well, how much of this Nickelodeon stuff can I put in there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if it's a private reel, do you have a little more leeway? Like if it's just something you just only send out, it's not publicly available.
Probably, but I feel like it would be a little bit more confusing too, because there's this old stuff, there's like action packed stuff, and then it's just like boom, children's Nickelodeon, and they're just like. They'll be like, what the heck happened over here?
You got somebody getting stabbed to shit in a horror movie, and then it cuts to Blue's Clues.
Yeah. Did you recognize Inveigle in it?
I did, yeah.
I loved the part because I made that when I was still in film school. That was like my senior project. I had to kind of make my reel and finish it and air it and everything. And I remember like sitting in a dark room and thinking like, because the line that the guy says, he's eyeing him back like a wolf pack. And then I added the wolf howl, and then I turned that into the siren sound.
Yes.
And like I put it all together, and I just like played it. I was just like, I'm a freaking genius. Yes. And then now I watched it. I was just like, oh yeah, that was a good idea. But like, whatever.
Gotta give yourself praise where it's due.
Yeah.
It was really good. I really like the reel. It was really good. It was action packed. It was more out of the box. Cause like I'm not the biggest fan of those reels where it's just like, here's a clip, here's another clip, here's another clip. Like, tell me a story. Yeah. I want to see a story. And I feel like your reel did that.
Yeah. I got a lot of like, because I remember when it happened, it's just like, well, how do I show an editing reel? Because it's like, I ran into a lot of issues with it because I was just like, I have a lot of stuff to work on, but like, there's no real connections between a lot of these. So, like, that was like one example of a connection I was able to do. And there was some other like little like transition wise I did to be able to connect to the things. But, I go from like that to like a car crash scene. And then there's like a makeup commercial in there. And like, there's, another vampire horror movie that I worked on and stuff too. So it was like trying to figure it out. And then I finally did it, and I was just like, oh, I love it. And I timed it to the glitch mob. Like that's the music. And then I showed it to people, and people were just like, I'm confused. Like first we're in a pool hall, and then now we're outside in an ambulance crash and stuff. And I was just like, no, there's different. I was like, it's multiple projects. It's not just one thing. And I think like what a lot of people are thinking is an editor reel is it's like, it is a scene. it's like, I'm going to show you a scene that I cut and all. And I'm just like, no, because I want to show you everything I've worked on, not just one thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's the better way to go. I mean, I know everybody's got their preferences and there's like a standard you have to stick to, but I personally think it's better to be outside the box and stand out, because you might funnel through a bunch of these different reels and then yours kicks on and opens up and people are like, wow, interesting. Like this starts off very differently. I love the fast-paced cuts in the opening before you cut to like the first actual scene where there's just a dialogue exchange. I enjoyed it a lot. I did back in the day when I dabbled in editing for one of my actor buddies, Kevin Tansky, shout out. I did an actor reel for him, and instead of just doing that, here's a clip, here's a clip, here's a clip, we wanted to do something a little bit more action packed, because he's got like stunt experience and he's got choreography experience. So we like threw in fight scenes and we blended different moments from different films into it in a similar way, kind of like what you did, where, well, it makes sense for us to transition from this line of dialogue to another project with a similar line that almost feels like it might be part of one conversation. I like seeing that stuff. I'm more geared towards that. So.
One thing I really like, which when I was thinking of like redoing the reel, I was thinking of doing it in a way where, have you seen like those Marvel edits where it's like it's the fight scenes of Marvel characters, but like it switches, so like as somebody throws a punch, it's a transition, it switches to another character, yes, like finishing the punch and something like that. So I wanted to kind of try to do something like that, or when you see like those like Peacock episode or Peacock commercials where it's like they'll take the TV shows that they have and like through the dialogue it's like telling you something, it's telling you like a story or something like that. I was trying to find a way to do something like that, but there's just no way to do it with like the stuff I had before, which is like horror, action, thriller, and then Blue's Clues and Backyardigans and SpongeBob. Like there's no real way to do it, because I'm like, I don't want to show like a bloody car accident scene and then like go to SpongeBob driving his boat.
That is hilarious. Oh my God. Could you do a few different reels? And just
I was thinking
that?
of that too, but then I was just like, but I want to, like the way my portfolio is and the way my resume is like, I want to come across as like, look at all the stuff I've done. Not just like, I don't want to just be like, this is my Nickelodeon niche. This is my film niche. Like I want to be like, I can do all of this crap. Not like, oh, hey, you're doing this. Well, look at the stuff I've done for that. It's just like, I want them to see, while yes, I can do this, I can also do all this other stuff too.
Yeah.
So
like I can do your kids shows, but I can also do that movie that you don't want them to see.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So I kind of really wanted to, I know we kind of glazed over this in the opening a little bit, but I really want to hear
Sabaton.
about, yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Or as my brother says, Sabaton.
I call them something really weird. I think I call them Saban, which might be a food. No, but it's been a long time since I've listened to them. But I loved the music growing up, and I actually worked my way back to the band recently because I heard there's a band, I think it's also from the Nordic countries, called Amaranth, and they did a cover of 82nd All the Way by Sabaton, and I listened to that, and they did such a good job with that song, and then I started going back to Sabaton and listening to it again. So this whole thing kind of played out at a perfect time. And then I also didn't know that they're going to be on tour, and they are on tour right now.
I believe I don't know if they're on tour right now, but I know they're going to. Okay,
because I was kind of like digging around into it, and I saw that they're going to be in LA in October, and I was like, October 15th. Oh man, I need to work around some things because I've never seen them live. I would love to. But like you've had the best seat in town. Like you were right there with the band. You were like traveling with them. You're like shooting their content. I have a really cool, this badass photo that you were saying one of your friends took on a phone.
Yeah. Oh, that was Winter Sun though. That wasn't Sabaton.
That was Winter Sun?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But it was still a really cool image. And that kind of segues into what I really wanted to talk about is like your experience just being a videographer for a traveling band. And like how did you get into that? How did that whole thing play out?
Funny enough, like there's no way for anybody to kind of recreate it. So I found the band, the funniest, the best, kind of one of the best ways to find a band was my friend in college on the East Coast before I moved out here was like, hey, I'm going to this heavy metal band. It's Swedish metal. I have an extra ticket. Do you want to come with me? And I was just like, yeah, I got class at 8 a.m, but I can skip that one. It's fine. It's biology. Nobody cares. I'll go. Why not? So we went and, I can't even tell you like what bands were playing, but it was a Sabaton tour. So they were the headliner. And I just remember like loving the crowd. And I love all genres of music, but like I'm a really big heavy metal fan. And so I'm like really liking the crowd and everything. And then Sabaton starts playing. And it just like something just like lights up inside me. And I'm just like, oh, I like this music. I like this band. And they're being funny on stage. They bring a little kid up at the end and he gives him like the sunglasses that he wears. And the whole time I'm just like, this is really cool. I like these guys. And I like look up their music when I get home. And I look up like other concerts and there's this song, like there's this thing that happens where people will sit down on the floor, and have you been to a heavy metal show? There's beer on the floor. It's sticky. You don't want to be on the floor, but people go on the floor and they'll be rowing, like literally rowing to the beat, to the song. And it's just like the fans are just so interesting. And then, they're hilarious. And in like their last show, they do like pranks and stuff. So like they had like a tank, somebody like in like a little cardboard tank thing driving around and like throwing stuff and shooting stuff and all. And so I just remember thinking like, these guys are fucking awesome and cool. And I just started following them, listening to their music, downloading their music and stuff, paying for it when Apple Music was the thing that you actually paid for albums and stuff.
What's your favorite song? Or a few of their, it's tough to have a favorite.
Yeah. Swedish Pagans is obviously like a big favorite, but like To Hell and Back, Night Witches, there's like a lot of them that I like, but I like more of like their older stuff when I first discovered them. I haven't really listened to a lot of their newer stuff. I need to. Yeah. That's on the music list. I've got a movies list and a film list or a TV show list. Now I have a music list too.
That's the tough thing about being a creative, though, is like you're so busy making creative content. Where are you going to find the time to also indulge in it? Yeah. So
but how I got like with them was
were they your first ones that you started with?
Yes,
because I know you did a few.
Yeah, they were the first. So I went to a show down in Anaheim. I just drove down there because they were doing the tour. And I was just like, I remember how much fun I had. I bought VIP tickets and everything because I was like, I wanted to be up front. I was like, I remember the energy and the just how great this show was at first. So I was like, I went again, bought a t-shirt, took a picture with it and everything. It was like taking videos, posting it up on Instagram, tagging the band members because I was following like, not all of them have social media, but some of them did. So I was following the ones that did. Tagging like actual Sabaton themselves. And like 2 days later, the bassist, follows me on Instagram and I'm sitting at work. Like I'm just sitting at work and I'm like, the job I was working, like stuff was rendering out. So I'm like watching it render, but I'm just like sitting on my phone, like playing games and stuff. And I see a notification. It's like Par Sandler was following you on Instagram. I was just like, what? And I click it and I'm like, oh, it's a fan page or something. And it's just like, I look at it, I'm just like, no, it's him. I'm like, set phone down. I'm just like, wait, what? And then I get another notification that he messaged me. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
I'm definitely dreaming.
Yeah, kind of. And I open up the message and he's just like, hey, this is really random, but I saw on your Instagram bio, it has a link to my website, which has my reel, has the fact that I'm an editor and stuff like that. And basically he's just like, this is no joke. We have an editor who shoots our vlogs behind the scenes and as well as shooting the shows. And they are leaving halfway through. We're trying to find somebody here in the U.S. that can come and finish out the tour for us. We would like to offer you this position. And I literally messaged back, I was like, haha, this is a joke, right? And he's just like, no, it's not. Like, I am being legit. Like, we can have a phone call and everything. Like, I can send you all the paperwork. He's like, we legit, like, I saw your reel. You're an editor. Like, we want to bring you on. And I have a phone call with him. And the whole time I'm just like, hello? And, you know, Swedish accent and everything. I'm not even going to try to recreate it because it's just going to go real bad. But basically, they're just like, hey, we want to pay you. We are literally going to fly you out to meet you here. You'll have, I think, like maybe 3 or 4 days with the vlog editor. Now he'll kind of show you the ropes. And then he's going to leave and you're just going to continue it. And I'm just like, okay, how long are you guys going to need me for? And they're just like, we're going to need you like 3-4 weeks. And I was like, okay, I have a full-time job.
And you were,
I was like, shit.
And you were a one-woman army for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I basically asked my boss at this job I was working at now, I was just like, hey,
how you doing?
you guys think you like won't need me for 4 weeks so I can go do this because I got this opportunity, but I'll be right back. I promise I'll come back. And basically they're like, unfortunately, we can't let you go for that long. Like, we'll have to replace you. So I had to sit there and think about it. I'm just like, no offense to this company at all. That I'm not even going to mention who they are, but no offense to them. I was hired as an editor, but I was not doing any editing except for the Bellator stuff, which was once in a blue moon. The rest of it, I was just QCing things, flagging errors, stuff like that. So I wasn't the happiest at this job. I was getting money. I was getting paid. I like just finished up school and everything. So I was like, I was in the industry, but at the same time, I was just like, this is not what I want to do.
Like, job I don't want to do or travel with one of the big four.
Yeah. So I basically like called up my parents. I'm like, hey, this is the opportunity I got. And of course my parents are being like parents. So they're just like, are you sure this is real? I was like, yeah, no, it's real. Like, it's real. And they're just like, well, it's a heavy metal band. It's a foreign band. Like, they're just thinking like drugs, sex, and rock and roll. They're just like, she's like, you're going to be doing heroin or something. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, calm down.
You're like, that's actually the first thing they asked me to do. They were like, this is the initiation.
They're like, you need a drug test. We need to make sure you're clean before you do heroin with us. So my parents were like, my dad was like, no, don't do it. He's like, you have a full-time job now. You have job security. Don't do it. And my mom was just like, fuck yeah, go for it, girl. Like, go have fun. Like, when does this happen? So I said, screw it. I did it. I left my job and I packed up some stuff. And the guy that I was with at the time was actually doing audio for, like hip hop people and all. So he was doing tours too. So I kind of asked him, I was like, what do I bring? What do I wear? And he's like, well, where are you going? And I was just like, well, we're going through the entire US and Canada.
I have an interjecting question. Did that have any influence on your decision, being with somebody who also did kind of something similar? With travel and everything?
Not really. I feel like it wouldn't matter who I was with, or if I wasn't with anybody, I would just been like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go fucking do this. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But I had to like pack like shorts and like t-shirts and then like jeans and like sweatshirts and stuff. I had to pack for like everything.
Yeah, because you're going all over the place. You're like East Coast, North, South, everywhere. Did you go overseas with them too?
No. So it was just North American tour. So it was just US and Canada.
Okay.
But they flew me out. I literally that day I met the band and I'm just sitting there in the backstage with them before they go on. And I met the vlog person that they had, and he's just like, hey, so just stick with me during the show. There's like, here's your press pass. Here's this. They're like, if security gives you any issues, like, you're allowed to go everywhere in the venue. You're allowed to go in the pit anytime. They're like, just don't go on stage. You can go backstage. That's fine. Just don't go on stage. And I was just like, I wasn't thinking of that, but okay. But they're like, if security gives you any issues, they're like, go talk to this person. And it was like the tour manager, and they're just like, he'll yell at security for you. And I'm just like, okay.
Did that ever have to happen?
No, luckily it didn't.
Okay.
Like, I basically just flashed like my whole like, hey, I'm with the band badge. And they're just like, oh yeah, you go. And I'm literally just like sitting there with the band. And I'm like freaking the fuck out because I'm like, what do I do? What do I say? Like, I didn't think this through, I guess. And, so it was awkward for like the first couple of days because I'm like meeting them, talking to them. And I'm just like, I freaking adore you guys. And I listen to your music all the time. Like, I sing my heart out in the shower to your music. And I'm like sitting here on the couch with you guys. Like, this is strange. But very quickly I got used to it. And I started just filming behind the scenes during the shows, stuff like that, and then just cutting vlogs together. And usually I believe we did one vlog for every like 2, 3, 4 shows. So it was a lot of edits. And, they're hilarious, on stage, off stage, they're cracking jokes with each other. They're making fun of each other. They're like pointing out random stuff and all. Like we went to one venue that had like little hidden rooms all around. So like we're all playing like hide and seek, trying to like find each other. And the whole time I'm just like recording all this. I'm like, I'm working with children right now. This is amazing.
You're like, it wasn't a tough transition into Nickelodeon after that.
The best part was we went to Ontario, and because if you guys know Sabaton, they're war. They sing about wars and stuff like that. So we went to Ontario, and they have this large tank museum there. However, the crew didn't go. It was just the band and me that went. We all hopped in a car together. We went to this tank museum. We're walking around and like we're looking at all these medals. We're looking at all these like uniforms, guns, all that stuff. And then after a while, they're just like, okay, you guys go change into these like jumpsuit things, and then we'll go for a ride. I'm just thinking like, what are we riding? Fucking in tanks. They yes, I'm not even kidding. I was the first one to walk into one of these tanks. I get into one of them. And I'm filming them all coming in, and then I like hop out of the tank and I like film them from the outside and all that. And I think I sent you a picture where they're taking a selfie, and like they're taking a selfie literally with my phone. Like they took my phone and they're like, let's all take a selfie with us in a tank. And then there was one tank that we could actually operate the turret. It's not shooting anybody, don't worry, but we can operate the turret. But I'm standing there as the camera person, and they all had the great idea to just quickly move the turret down and point it right at me, holding the camera. And I'm just like, yay, I'm the target. And then they let me go in it too. And they took a picture of me, and I have like the biggest smile on my face, because I was just like, I never thought I would get to sit in a tank or ride in a tank or operate one. And I am literally in freaking Canada for the first time in my life, operating a tank that, these people were just like, oh yeah, she's with the band. Let her shoot it. It's fine.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah. And it's, all of that coupled together, the fact that you're also doing this with the band on top of it, like man, that must have been such a crazy experience. It was amazing. I cried so much when I had to go home, because I was like, I didn't want it to end. I didn't want it to leave. Like it was just like, crap, this is a world for me. Like this is the thing. And eventually by we're hitting the end of the tour, there's fans there that recognize me. Cause like what we do is when they do the show, obviously like fans are taking videos and stuff like that. But we also had another guy that was doing Instagram live, and he was kind of going like, he was like sneaking onto stage a couple of times and stuff like that. But he was shooting like a lot of the fans, a lot of that. But I'm like in the pits, I'm like behind the crowds, all the way in the back of the venue. I'm at the top of the venue. And every now and then there's people that just be like, oh, hey, Nix, hi, Nix, can I be in the vlog? And I'm just like, how the fuck do you know who I am? That's so funny. Yeah. And it was just so surreal. And, the band is just so sweet, and they were so great. We're all cracking jokes together, and we're all just having fun. And like, they're telling me like life stories and stuff like that. And they're telling me like old tour stories and stuff. And the whole time I'm just like, it was awkward at first, but like very quickly they just kind of like accepted me as one of their own. Mm. And funny enough, I had my first gin and tonic ever with that band. So like they got gin and tonics, and I was just like, I've never had one before. They're like, here, try it. And I was just like, ooh, this is good. And one of them told me like, they're like, always get Tangerang. It's like, that's better. Don't do well. And I was just like, oh, okay, nice. I was like, I'm learning things. You hear that? Tangerang. Tangerang tonic. Yeah. Coming from one of the biggest metal bands. Yeah. And then it was, so they wanted to bring me back to another tour, but unfortunately at that point I was already working like in Nickelodeon, stuff like that. And I was like, unfortunately there's no way I could do this. Was that post-pandemic? That was post-pandemic. Yeah, that was after the pandemic. Even with the remote situation, were you on a laptop? Yes, I was, but it was just kind of the issue. And like, I think this was like kind of when I started
working with Nick News too, that I was just like, if I do this, I know it's going to be like, I can't come back to this job. And so unfortunately I did have to make that decision. But I told them, I was like, hey, I'll see you guys when you guys come to LA, no problem and all. And I went to go see the show and everything. And I was standing in the crowd watching the show and I was just like, yeah, this sucks. It's just like, I had more fun when I was like backstage and stuff.
I just got downgraded.
Yeah. Cause it was just like, I had all these great memories of like, you know, when I was in the pit, like they knew to look for me because they're like, hey, she's shooting for the vlog. So they would look for me. Like when I'm backstage, they would just kind of like they'd shoot and look like wink over and all. I'm just like, yeah, I got it on the camera. I got it. Don't worry. So being like in the crowd with the fans and stuff, it was like, it's still a great moment. But at the same time, I was just like, oh, they don't know I'm here. I was like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. Are you still in contact with the bassist?
Every now and then, yeah. Basically, like when I know they're coming through again, I'll just kind of like hit him up and just be like, hey, I'm gonna come see you guys. I'm so excited to see you. And then, you know, the last time I went to go see them, it was kind of they were like, hey, are you able to make it to the show? And I was like, unfortunately, no, I'm not able to get off work. Because I was working like a part-time job then. And then I was able to like move my schedule around like last minute. So I was like, at that point, I was like, I'm not going to reach out to them. I'm not going to let them know because they're probably not going to look at their phone. So I went. And then I messaged them afterwards. I was like, hey, I was able to get off work. I went to the show. I was like, you guys are awesome. So great seeing you again. Can't wait till next time. And then Par was just like, you should have messaged. You should have told me. He was like, I would have gotten you backstage and everything. I was like, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, always take that leap of faith. Just take it. Because I mean, that's essentially like how you ended up there to begin with. Yeah. You know, that's the thing about these like part-time mundane jobs, man. They always like put you in this like, this is just where I am. I've had that too. Like I've missed out on some really cool opportunities. Well, not to the same degree, but I've missed out on some cool opportunities because I was kind of like coming up with every excuse to just not reach out to those people. So,
yeah.
So
I learned kind of quickly that to focus on the jobs that matter. And, you know, so like I worked at like a restaurant, I worked at a yoga studio, stuff like that. I kind of learned very quickly that I can find another one of those jobs. It's like, those don't really matter to me. During COVID, I was actually working at a guns shop, which worked out because we were like one of the places that never shut down. Like it was like deemed like this is a restriction of the Second Amendment if gun stores shut down. So like I still had work. So I was like, okay, thank God. I'm like, I'm working, I'm making money. Like we're good. But when the day came that like my freelance work took off to the point where I didn't have to work at that shop anymore, I was just like, I'm out. Goodbye. Yeah. Cause it was like, while I loved that job and it was fun, I liked the people I was working with, I was like, this is not my career. I was like, I did not move to California for this. I moved to California to be an editor, to do this. I was like, I'm focusing on this stuff.
Yeah.
But then unfortunately, the Sabaton thing came around. I was just like, fuck.
Yeah.
I was like, I wish.
When you stepped into so now I might be confusing timelines here, but when you stepped into the gun shop, were you like, big fucking deal, I was in a tank? You're like,
a little bit.
You guys have your little guns. That's funny. Wow. That's
I've operated big guns.
Yeah, right? The big guns.
Yeah.
That is so fun. Oh, yeah. So then, so you were with the guys for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And then, what about this other band that you were with? How did that whole thing play out?
So basically I came back and I was just like, what am I going to do now? And I basically didn't have any more connections to the film industry, and I was applying to jobs online, but you know, if you've ever done that before, it's shitty. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to find more work. And then basically one of the people from the Sabaton tour, she was also based in the US and she was in Vegas area. And she reached out to me. She's like, hey, I don't know if you're interested, but there are websites for bands to reach out to when they're coming to do tours in the US to find people to work with them. So that way they're not bringing everybody over. And it's usually like, you know, techs, assistants, stuff like that, like merch people. But she's like, every now and then I see like photographers, videographers. So she kind of got me into that website. And she was able to, you had to do like a certain number of like shows or tours to get to like the professional level of it. So I was just at the basic level. But she sent me a link and she's like, hey, don't tell anybody I did this, but this was years ago. I think she's fine. She sent me the link, and it was for like the professional level. Like they're looking for a videographer. Applied, and I was just like, hey, I did this work for Sabaton. Here's the links. Here's the YouTube links to the vlogs that I did. Let me know. And it was Winter Sun, a Finnish metal band, and they reached out to me. We did a Zoom call and everything, and they're like, hey, these are the dates we're coming through. This is what we want from you. Don't worry, we have our own equipment. I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have jack shit. I was like, I have my phone. So I flew to Philadelphia and started that tour with them. And that one I did the whole tour. So that one I think was like a month, maybe a month and a half. It was definitely a little bit different than the Sabaton tour, because the Sabaton tour, you know, some nights we're spending on the bus, some days we had rest days and we're in hotel rooms and stuff like that. The Winter Sun tour, we're like in the bus the whole time. So we all got real close, real friendly. And unfortunately, we all shared the same tour flu. And for them, it was a lot different, because with Sabaton, it was basically like, hide, go away. Don't be seen on stage. Like, not in a rude way, but just like, hey, the focus is us. For the Winter Sun tour, they were just like, hey, you have a camera on a gimbal rig and you're going to be like right next to us on stage. And I was like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Yeah. So again, like
that's where that picture comes into play then. Okay,
I'm literally standing on stage right next to the guitarist, and I'm like,
what a badass shot though.
I know.
That silhouette, that look. I'm going to put it up so people who are watching the video version of this can see it, but that is such a badass picture.
Yeah. So I asked them, I was like, for clarification, I was like, you want me on stage? And they're like, yeah, how else are you going to get like the close-up video shots? I was just like, me. I'm tall. I was like, me on stage. And they're just like, what? It's just like, does she not know English? And I'm just like, I was like, okay. And so they had like a couple camera setups. So they had a 360 GoPro on the front. And I had to go up and hit record at the beginning of every show. So before the band even goes on, I'm the first thing the fans see. And very quickly I was called the GoPro girl or the camera girl or something like that. And then there's the sound guy in the back. He had a camera set up that just got like the wide shot with the crowd in front.
Like a master or something?
Kind of, yeah. And then I was holding a gimbal rig and I'm on stage, and I had a whole new respect for musicians, artists, singers, all that stuff, because it's fucking hot.
On stage?
Yeah, those lights and everything, because I'm wearing black skinny jeans and a long sleeve black shirt, because my goal was to blend as much as possible. And by the time I'm off the stage, like they literally said like, hey, because at the venues, like there's showers and stuff. And basically they're like, hey, at the end of every show, you are part of the band. You're going to shower as well. Like you are allowed to take a shower. And then if there's extra time, like the crews can shower and all. Because by the end of it, like I swear to God, at the end of that tour, I dropped like 30, 40 pounds of just water weight because I'm just sweating to death all the time. But yeah, it very quickly, like there was like this whole meme thing going on about the camera girl. People that I've worked with at other tours. And at this time too, I was also doing photography and interviews for heavy metal bands through a folk and rock online web site. So a lot of people like it within the LA area and stuff like that. They kind of had already known about me. And then, I'm with this big band who has a lot of following, and there's a lot of memes about this band and stuff like that. Cause they have this one song called Into the Light. And we were touring during the time, like these moth memes were a big thing. And it was like a moth literally like staring at a light that was the meme. And so like there were so many memes about the lead singer singing like Into the Light. And then the moth was just like, yes, master, I follow or something like that. So like a lot of internet fandom was happening, and I was like in a lot of them, and people were taking photos, and I'm looking online at photos of like the Winter Suns tagged into, and I'm like, oh, there I am. Oh, there I am. Oh, there I am. Oh, there I am.
Do you ever regret not just riding that train? Like just saying, you know what? I'm just going to like travel all the time and just shoot content for bands, or because that feels like a very inconsistent thing?
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. However, I was getting sick all the time because, again, we're all on the same bus together. One person gets sick and it just gets spread around. So, like, hell, I could have been the spokesperson for NyQuil and DayQuil at that freaking point.
Could have worked that into a sponsorship.
So I was like sick all the time. And, being on the road, even though I was on the road for such a short amount of time, it does definitely take a toll on you. It gets expensive too, because while you do get per diem, like, you also need to understand, like, hey, I need to go eat, and I don't want to eat fast food every single day or something like that, or eat the catering that they have.
What were you eating?
So it was like we would go out to restaurants every now and then on like rest days, but basically every venue, like, they had a list for like catering options. So like waters, Gatorades, fruit platter, stuff like that, and all. Veggie platter. So like we did have some food like that, but we've got a crew of like 20, maybe 30 people. Catering doesn't really last that long, and it's supposed to be technically, while it is for everybody, it's majority for the band. So the band's hungry, the band eats it first, and then everybody else kind of gets like the leftovers. And then it was like a lot of fast food because we're on the road. So yeah, it was kind of a struggle, but also I wasn't like, oh, I gotta get my fitness, I gotta get my protein. It was more just like, hey, there's Arby's, or hey, there's Taco Bell. Like, let's go. I don't care.
God, I love me some Taco Bell.
Oh, Taco Bell's my favorite.
That's so good. Crunchwrap Supreme all the way.
Oh, yes. But no, so while I did enjoy the time there, it's definitely depends on like the kind of band that you're with. If it is a more popular band, like, obviously you're going to have better time traveling. You're going to have some hotel stays. There were a couple of like bands that like more local stuff. So like I went to Texas and did some work with like a local band, and like we're literally sleeping in the van, like not a bus, a van that like one of the drummers driving and stuff like that. Wow. So yeah, so there's definitely
that's an experience. That sounds,
yes, but
I could see after a while it being like oh shit.
Yeah.
But
so I think I did that for maybe about like 2 years, but then in between these tours, I'm home. I'm trying to find work. I'm trying to get onto another band. I'm trying to recover and breathe through my nose once again. And yeah, after a while, it just kind of took its toll on me. While it was so much fun, I was starting to enjoy being like at home in LA and going to these concerts and venues, doing interviews, taking photos, videos for the Folk and Rock website instead, just because I was like, okay, I can wake up in my own bed. I can shower whenever I want. I can go do that, but then I can also come back home.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Folk and Rock?
Yeah, pretty much I don't remember how he found me. The owner is Jeff, and I think he like emailed me or got my email or something. Basically, like through all these tours and all, he kind of got whiff of me, I guess. And he reached out and he's just like, hey, I run this website. And basically what he does is he does album reviews, he does show reviews. And he gets like press passes so he can like get access to the photo pits and stuff like that. So he reached out to me. He's just like, hey, I saw the work you did with Sabaton. And he's just like, if you're interested, like you can do stuff like this too. And I'm just like, basically I read, I can get you into shows for free. And I was just like, yes. It's like, sign me up. So I was doing that. I was like, so I had a camera, I had like a little crappy little Canon camera, and I've upgraded and all. But I was going to just all these kinds of venues in LA. Like I was going to like down in Anaheim area. I was going to like Whiskey A Go-Go. I was there like all the time. Yeah. And just shooting like, not like big bands. Like every now and then I did some big bands, but it was a lot of like some local stuff and all that. And, did a little like quick little review, did some album reviews and all, did some actual like Zoom interviews too. So I've done Zoom interviews. I've done like legit, like before the band goes on and plays interviews. And yeah, so I enjoyed that a little bit more because wasn't getting sick. I loved traveling and everything, but it also was taking a toll on the relationship I was in at the time too.
Yeah.
So I kind of was like making the decision for my own mental, personal, physical health and my relationship too to kind of take the step back.
Is that Hey guys, sorry for the interruption. I had a package delivery. I'm just kidding. There was a homeless person screaming outside, typical like Hollywood stuff. So
When in LA.
But we were talking about your tours and how you're just kind of like coming back and settling in. And with this new gig, you didn't have to like tour around the country. It was more focused in your region. So not as much getting sick.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And more exposure to different kinds of music and different bands too, which was nicer.
Any highlights from those? You said you worked with some like decent name bands and some like startup bands. Any
Some of the cool ones were like some more like known ones, Nightwish, a couple of other ones. Memphis Mayfire was a cool one. The reason I got into that one was actually the bus driver for Winter Sun was the bus driver for them. And he was just like, hey, do you want to come to this show? Like, do you want to just come and look at it? And I'm just like, yeah. I was like, can you get me like a photo pass though? Like, I don't want to like overstep. And he's like, do you want a backstage pass? Like, do you want to come have a drink with the band? I was just like, the high school emo screamo little child inside me is giddy as hell right now. Yeah. So
I'm low key jelly. These are like all bands that I grew up listening to.
Okay, so they played some new songs that I didn't know, but they also played some classics. And I was just like, oh yes. And then I've gone to like some really weird shows. I've mentioned Whiskey A Go Go earlier, so that's more of like a local like LA thing. Apparently like they have a lot of rich history, so there's a lot of big bands that have like kind of started there based out of LA. I've done some really cool shows. One of the really cool ones I did was like a classic 80s band called Steel Panther. And like when I say classic 80s, I mean like imagine the 80s in Hollywood, and like that's them. Hairspray out, like they're doing their hair and shit. Like some girl threw a bra at them and they were like going crazy. And the thing is, I had no idea what I was getting into for the show. But basically the owner of the website, Jeff, was just like, go have a drink and have fun. He's like, I think you're going to thank me afterwards. And afterwards, I'm just like, dude, can I please go to more of these? I was like, this was awesome.
So, did you work your way out of that because you started with Nickelodeon, or how did the transition happen?
That happened, unfortunately, because of COVID. So COVID hit, and, you know, film industry shut down, music, basically everything. Industry shut down, but music industry took like a massive hit because obviously, you know, they can't do tours. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can release albums and stuff like that and release songs, and you can do like podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff like that. But their main source of income was like doing tours and selling merch and shit like that.
There was this really clever thing that I saw. It was a Japanese band, and when COVID hit and everything started shutting down, what they did is they did like a studio concert where they like got the band together, and they had some folks just kind of recording from cameras. They stuck to the whole 6 feet thing, all that shit. Mm-hmm. And they were doing like a live social media like thing on YouTube or whatever it was, but it was them performing a concert.
Oh, cool.
But in, you know, without the audience, without any of that stuff. And they were like live on YouTube, so you could like still interact with them and everything. It was pretty neat. And they would like talk back to the fans. You could see like the comments appearing on a TV behind them. So yeah, if any bands didn't take advantage of that, I'm so sorry, because I seen that and I was like, wow, this is a neat idea. Talk about, you know, improvising.
Yeah, definitely. So and then, I know like a lot of stuff got affected. Like I was still doing some Bellator work when COVID hit, and it was really weird because there's no crowds for those fights anymore. So they still did the fights and everything. Obviously, everyone's COVID tested first, but there's no audience.
I feel like that must have been so hard to...
Yeah, because like you got to get hyped up by the audience. Yeah, and then there's just nothing. So basically, once that hit, you know, the whole taking photos, videos, and all that stuff kind of just went on the back burner. And then the Nickelodeon stuff started up. And then when things started going back to normal and opening up again, I did a few shows here and there, But it was just mainly the issue became like, hey, I'm so busy. Like I'm off work at 5. I'm not gonna be able to make it downtown to get to the open door at 6. Like I need to go home and like decompress and have, a meal first and stuff like that. So so then I started doing more like some interviews then. And, it's just been kind of like work around my schedule. And, Jeff just hits me up every now and then. He's just like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, I can do this day. And they're like, unfortunately, the band can't do that day. I'm like, I'm sorry. But I do want to get back into that just because it's a good way to just get out of the apartment and go listen to some new music and stuff like that. So I really did like that. And there's been a few places and a few shows where I'm just like, I can't wait to get back into my car and get back home. But then there's been a couple of them where just like the fans are great, the crowd's awesome, the venue's nice and everything like that. The drinks are kind of reasonable price wise.
Shocking.
Yeah.
There's concerts where the drinks are reasonable.
I know, right?
$15.
It depends on where you go. You got to go to like some maybe sort of shady spots, but you can find some good ones.
All right, so that's the trade-off. You go to the shady spots and you can get you either get a beer or you get stabbed in the chest. It depends on how the bartender's feeling. Well, hey, Nix, thank you so much for jumping on. A lot of really cool stuff that we got over. You've got so many incredible experiences. I do want to walk away with one thing. For any new filmmakers that are coming out to LA, chasing the dream, do you have any advice, especially for video editors or anything? I know a lot of what you talked about, you were saying like, hey, it's about being in the right place at the right time, but
pretty much I guess like any advice I would have would be that reality is going to hit you hard and it's going to suck, but if you just keep pushing through it and pretty much taking any and every opportunity you can get, because you never know which one is going to open the door to something new. Basically, like I've worked jobs that, they promised pay and I never got paid for. I've worked jobs that are just like, oh, hey, I know some big people in the industry and I haven't talked to them in like what feels like 50 years. But pretty much my thing is I took every and any opportunity I could while knowing like my own limits. So I never overworked myself. There was a few times I got close. But I honed my skills. I learned as much as I could. I befriended everybody I could. And basically every person that I worked with, I just tried to connect with them on some kind of human level as well as a professional level. And it was pretty much Brad from Bellator was my stepping stone into Paramount. And I still talk to him this day. And we still we'll have phone calls and we'll just kind of chat about life and everything. And the whole reason he brought me on board to go to Paramount for all this stuff is because I would just talk to him while we were editing and we talk about life and everything like that and just kind of build that connection. And I still do that with everybody today. Everybody that I work with, anybody who's like a coworker, a boss, anything like that. I'll just kind of like try to have like kind of a connection with them too. And then I just make sure my work speaks volumes as well. So I make sure everything is done quickly, on time, to a very high, I keep myself to a very high standard. And, I've had, I have a connection through Nickelodeon who's like a post-production supervisor for Nickelodeon. And he's told me too that, all he has to do is introduce me to somebody, get my foot in that door. And then he's just like, and then I just let you go and you kind of continue those connections and you kind of spread farther after that.
Yeah. And then it's really on you from that point. Like to not freeze up, to make sure you're getting back to people, to make sure you're still building on those connections.
Exactly. And there's been times where I've had panic moments where I've had, oh shit, I can't do this, or this is asking too much of me. And, just take a deep breath, know that you've got this and just work through it. And yeah, there's been times where I've been like on the tours or working a new job where I'm just like, I this is above me. I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. And, I just figure it out and I get it done. And, next thing I know, they're just like, that was amazing. Can you work on this with us too? And stuff like that. And so my thing is like, I feel I don't want to tell people like, take everything you can get. But at the same time, you kind of have to, because you have no idea who's going to open up what doors. I had no idea that working at one I had no idea working at one post-production house was going to introduce me to Brad, who was going to get me into the door at Paramount, who was going to introduce me to like Megan and Mark. And basically that was what led me into Nickelodeon. But the thing is, Brad got me into the door. I went over to those people and asked them like, hey, what's the situation with your editors and all? Like, I took that next step. I didn't wait for it to come to me. I got my foot in the door and then I pushed the door open myself. Yeah. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to help you or who's going to hurt you. And you kind of have to learn. And unfortunately, I have learned the hard way that some people in this industry are not going to help you out. Some people, you know, still owe you like $3,000 of work and you're never going to see a cent of that. And some people are going to be like, hey, I know you work for this company, but have you ever thought about working for this company? Like, let's get you in the door here.
Yeah.
So
I'm a big believer in just building off that network and bringing people together. And I can't stand it's the same way. I've been burnt along the way, but you can't, you know, and I know some people shut down after getting, I'll say it, I like how it is, screwed over in this industry, because there's a whole lot of people who are going to be waiting around to just take advantage of you and screw you along the way just to benefit their own, you know, work and what they want to achieve. But you can't let that stop you. Because like then, you know, you might get screwed over 3 times and then you'll meet the person who's going to make the rest of your career, who's going to at least, like you said, open up the doors to the rest of that. So,
and I've had really lots of friends and people that I've met in like film school and like in the early stages of my career that they are no longer in the industry anymore because they've had those moments that kind of made or break them. Yeah. And, you know, I'm still in contact with some of them. They're still living their best life and all. And some of them are glad they're out of the industry. But
it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's really not.
But it's just knowing what you want to do and never giving up towards your dreams. And I've had opportunities and I've had moments where I've sat down with myself and told myself, hey, I gave it my best shot. It's not for me. There's been countless moments in my life where I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to be in this industry anymore. I'm going to leave California. I'm going to go back to the East Coast. And it's kind of in those darkest moments where something happens. And now I'm an Emmy winning editor working for Nickelodeon. Like, yeah, like 10 years ago, I never thought this would happen. And look where I am now. And it's just like, I'm proud of myself for not giving up. And while there's been very hard, shitty moments, you know, my dream is to work on a TV show or a movie. And I'm not done until I get there.
Yeah.
So.
You got a lot of time to go.
Yeah.
So much time.
I'm 29, you know, I'm about to turn 30 and that's scary. But at the same time, it's just like, there's people in the industry that are in their 70s and 80s and they're still working on it.
I mean, look at Clint Eastwood.
Oh yeah. Please don't compare me to Clint Eastwood.
No.
That's an insult on him.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, the guy's ancient and he's still loving the craft and he's still working. And frankly, I'm in the same boat. Like I tell people all the time, I said, I want to work this industry till the day I die. Mm-hmm. My ideal thing is I don't want to retire. Like I want to be 80 years old and I want to still be making movies. So yeah, just going to say again, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you. And I would love to come back because we talked kind of off the record about a lot of stuff. And I feel like that could be a whole other fun podcast in itself.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. We'll dive into a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to be super fun. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Cheers. And we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Hey guys, it's Xandar again. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 2 of the AuthentiX Podcast. I want to give a huge shout out to Nix for jumping in and joining me for this episode. And I just want to put out another reminder that if you haven't already, you should totally sign up for our giveaway. It's a $100 AMC gift card. All you have to do is go on the Flow page and register with your name and email. Don't forget to follow on social media for shorts and exclusive clips. Also, you should tell your friends because you're a nice person and I'm desperate. The bigger the audience, the more often I'll be able to do these cash prizes. I would like to eventually move from doing monthly prizes to weekly prizes. If you haven't already had an opportunity, go check out episode 1 with Delon J. Holland from Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. And I think that's all I got to say. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the next episode of Dragon Ball. Nope. Okay. Nerds. See you, everybody.